I remember when I'm looking through old pictures in my house, we have pictures of me and my brother leaving Korea and going to the United States. There's no date on the photograph. The picture that I have in my mind is that it's a very dated picture, right around 1979. And 1979 is significant because that's the year my brother and I and my family left Korea to come to the United States. I found out much later in my life, not through my parents, but through other people, that we didn't actually go to the United States first. We actually went to Hawaii first. And that's where I believe we got our visa and started the process of immigration. 1979 was a big year because that's when me and my family, well, at least for myself, we never looked back. I didn't think that I would ever go back to Korea after leaving. In 1979, I don't think I remember anything whatsoever of Korea. And in 1979, I don't think I knew what was going on in Korea to know why we left. Matter of fact, in 1979, I was too young to even know the reason for our leaving in the first place. No one explained it to me. I mean, you're 6 years old. What are they supposed to say? So my brother and I, we never understood why we left other than the fact that we had to go. And we never understood why we had to go in the first place. A few months ago, a movie came out. I don't know if you know this movie. It's called 1212. That's all it says. That's the title. It's a Korean movie. And it came out here. I think we saw it at Bayside Theater. I'm not sure. Or Fresh Meadows. I'm not exactly sure where we saw it, but all the titles said it was 1212. And 12/12, 1979, something happened in Korea. There was a coup d'etat. And if you don't know what a coup d'etat is that there's a military uprising that comes in and overthrows the government. There were many coups in Korea's history, but in 1979, this was a big one because the military was pulled from the DMZ, which is the 38th parallel, and this military came and conquered, if you will, overran the government and put in its place another president. In 12/12/1979, there was such a huge uprising that it hit me. It hit me. Like a brick wall hit me, like a car slamming into a wall. It hit me. It took almost all my life, but I was like, 1979, oh my goodness. This was the year that my family and we left. My parents never explained to me. To this day, I don't know if they want to explain it to me. But I think the picture fits. Do you really want to raise a kid in a climate like that? And so I believe one of the reasons why we left Korea at that time was because of that coup. If you want to Google it, you may Google it for yourself. It's called the December Revolution or whatever it's called. It's a huge thing that happened in 1979. I believe 2 or 3 presidents during the 80s was a result of that coup. Much of Korea's history, we are the evidence. We are the, how shall I biological evidence of Korea's past. Good and bad, good and bad. Whether you're one side of the equation or the other. We are the byproducts of that. Whether we think so or not, whether we believe so or not, whether we want to deny it or not, whether we want to, sweep it under the rug or not, we are the biological evidence of all things good and bad that happen in Korea. And I refrain from saying our country because much of us probably will never say Korea is my country. But I can say that because I was born there. And all of us who've been born there, we can say, Korea is my country. But then I can say, America is my country too, which is fine, which is correct for me to say, because I'm a naturalized U.S. citizen, so America is my country. When you sign the document for naturalization, and one of the questions is that you swear by the United States and that you swear by the Constitution of the United States and its laws. You swear by it. And when you get naturalized and you stand before the federal judge, in what I did, in federal judge in Philadelphia, raised my right hand, and you swear by the Constitution, and you become a naturalized U.S. citizen. I have a passport with the U.S. citizenship mark on it so that when I leave this country and go to Korea to visit, the Korean government cannot arrest me or detain me to put me into their military because I'm a U.S. citizen. And so, by naturalization, this is my country. But my birth is not here. I can claim ownership of this country. But there's one thing that I can never be. President of the United States. Because president, you have to be born here. Certain things are still a glass ceiling for naturalized U.S. citizens. That's one of those. But it's not like we who are naturalized would ever want to do that. We who are naturalized know that our birthplace is our home, even though we may never say so out loud. But those of us who are born here, we don't have this kind of duality, do we? We don't. We don't have, how shall I say another way, this smell. What smell? The smell of immigration. Those who are born here do not have this odor. Whether that odor is good, whether that odor is bad, is a very personal thing. Currently, this climate, when you attach the word immigrant, has a malodorous connotation. And for those, when I was growing up in elementary and middle school, to be called an immigrant, yes, to be called an immigrant, to be called that I was not born here, was malodorous. And to some degree, it is still malodorous to me. It still is. Because even though you've been grown up in this country, it's still not yours by birthright. You see, I believe that captures Alexander Hamilton, which is why I showed you a clip of the Broadway musical Hamilton by Lin-Manuel Miranda. If you have never seen it, you should. It captures the full biographical history of Alexander Hamilton, which I found later on that Lin-Manuel Miranda read the book by Ron Chernow called Hamilton. Now, it's interesting, and I didn't know this until I read Ron Chernow book. Alexander Hamilton is the most unique founding father in that he was the only founding father that wasn't born here. That struck me. That this founding father, who's on the $10 bill, didn't have a father. And that for odd, strange reasons, he ended up in the Caribbean, and that he went through such terrible personal tragedy even before the age of 14. My God, what kind of founding father do we have that did not grow up on a farm or a plantation like the other founding fathers, did not grow up with a solid family like John Adams, and yet was probably the smartest of the founding fathers, among the smartest of the founding fathers, because he wrote much of the Federalist Papers. If you don't know what the Federalist Papers are, just know that the Federalist Papers is basically a treatise, a long, long treatise of papers arguing back and forth of the Bill of Rights to our Constitution. Should we have one? Should we not have one? It's huge. It's huge. It is one of the most important documents that we have in collection at the dawning of the U.S. Constitution when it was made, before it was even birthed, before it was even introduced. There was arguments for and against. And he was for a very powerful, centralized federal government with a federal banking system, which for most of the country's early history did not have one until it came to be in the early part of the 20th century, after Alexander Hamilton had died, which he died in a duel with Aaron Burr across the river, across in New Jersey, near Hoboken, I believe. So this founding father went through many of the same straits as most immigrants go through. He had a smell about him that most immigrants have. There are few smells that immigrants have, not mentioning body odor, that's probably one of those smells, but more than just body odor and what emanates from his person, he smells of desperation and fear. He smells of anxiety and torment. He smells of perpetual loneliness. And all immigrants go through this. All immigrants go through this. Because they come to this country with nothing or barely anything, and they have to, by their bootstraps, work tirelessly day after day, not to increase their livelihood, but to merely put food on the table. Now, it's hard enough if you're by yourself, but can you imagine if you were an immigrant with a family? It's 3 times, 4 times, 5 times as bad. And what if that family is a wife and children just barely old enough to walk? That is the status of an immigrant family. You don't know when the next day you're going to eat, and you don't know when the next day money is going to come in order to buy enough bread. So what do? You beg, borrow, steal money if you have to, or beg, borrow, steal bread. Because you are a thief and you want and desire to break the law? No, because you're hungry and you're thirsty. And like most immigrant fathers with families or parents, you're not really thinking about yourself. You're thinking about your children. So you're going to beg, borrow, steal bread Not so much so that you can eat, so that you can work tomorrow. If there is work tomorrow, if you can find work tomorrow, so that your children can survive. So that one day, just one day, I don't know, we don't know when one day it's going to be, maybe 10 years, maybe 20 years, they will have a life better than mine. So that immigrant families don't think about what they were going to come up with. Whether they become rich and poor, remain poor, is not the issue. Whether they rise above their dust and ashes is not the issue. Whether they're always in tattered rags or in very, very clean robes is not the issue. The issue is whether their children will be the same as they. That's the issue. That's the issue. The perpetual mind of an immigrant family is that the parents always want to make sure that their kids turn out better than they did. Always. Always. They will never sacrifice their kids to become who they are. And they will work tirelessly so that that consequence will never happen. Never happen. So you hear stories about these immigrant families, don't you? How they pour their hearts out. Tears, blood, sweat, blood mostly, to make sure that their kids do not become like them. You know, I read the story of Daniel and I read the story of Hamilton. I cannot find any other person in which the two overlap quite interestingly. Their overlap is very interesting in one regard, or at least one regard, is that we don't know Daniel's family. Never says. We don't know what happened to Daniel's family. Daniel just appears on the page. Daniel, who's the author of the book of Daniel, does not mention his family. I don't know why. I don't know why he doesn't mention his family. He could have said, Daniel, the father of so-and-so and so-and-so. He doesn't say that. We don't know his background history, which is, to me, loudly claiming something that is silent. Is it possible that his parents died during the exile? Is it possible that his parents gave their child away so that he would not have to live in the place of his birth? Because what was happening? And what was happening? A calamitous ruin of such immense import was happening to the Israelite people in their Jerusalem. I say calamitous import. Why is that? Because when King David prayed to the Lord after all of his fighting was over, he prayed this prayer: Dear God, Heavenly Father, now that I am at peace and in war around all my enemies and subduing them, allow me to build a temple to glorify your name, a place where we can worship and congregate together so that we and all of us with you can glorify you and exalt you forever in this temple. And the Lord God responded. You know what he said to David? He said, "You will not build me this temple, for your hands is dirtied by blood, spilled blood. Your son Solomon will build me this temple." And so King David died, not having this temple realized. And Solomon started building this temple. A huge edifice. Huge. Gigantic. Such the world has never seen, according to Solomon. And he prayed the prayer and said, "God, may you dwell in this temple forever." And the Lord responded. He said, "King Solomon, if you follow my decrees and my commands, you and your people, I will dwell in this temple and live in this temple. But if you do not follow my decrees and commands, this temple will be trashed to the ground and destroyed, such as it has not been or since. So much acclaim will be coming to this temple because I will dwell in it. And if you disobey me, the destruction of this temple will be such that no one will remember this temple." So the temple goes up, the first temple. And in 605 BC, because of the sins of the people, God commands Nebuchadnezzar and his army in Babylon to come in and destroy it. Destroy it to the ground until there's nothing left. To the people of Israel, to watch their temple fall and crumble is synonymous to what happened to us during 9/11 when planes came in and destroyed the World Trade Center towers, come crashing to the ground. Everyone looked aghast, fearful. Oh my God, what is happening to us? When the Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor on December 7, 1941, there was a moment of pause, of upright surprise, anger, the likes of which there was not even understood how angry people were. Because the destruction was so immense, the loss of life so deteriorating. We can feel, we can have this attachment with what's going on. That when something so important happens and it's destroyed, our first thought, where is God? Where is he? That's normal people, normal religious people will think, where is God? For us Christians and for the Jews, it's even more immense. Is God dead? Is God dead? Is God dead? Because he is sure as heck not here. Because if he was, he would not allow this to happen to us. He would not allow this to happen to us. That's the backstory. The question that hangs, where is God? Is God dead? Because if he's alive and he is here, he will not allow this to happen to us. And yet he did. Yet he did. Oh my God, yet he did. Why? Why? And so Daniel's name cries out in this forest of whispers. Where is God? Is God dead? And his name cries out into this wilderness of many whispers. God is my judge. Now, into those whispers, God is my judge, is not a blessing. It's like a viper, ready to pounce its prey and sting. You better watch out. God is watching you. Do not say that. Do not say that. What are your thoughts? Are you not accusing God of not being here? Not a good thing. God is my judge. You can even move in for God is not my judge as so much God is the judge. Judging me, accusing me, sounding me out as one who is not requisite enough to stand before God. And you know, that is one way of looking at Daniel. Another way of looking at Daniel is that he is a blessing. He is a blessing. I read in 2 Corinthians 2:15 and 16 this verse. For we are the aroma of Christ to God among those who are being saved and among those who are perishing. To one a fragrance from death to death, to the other a fragrance from life to life. Did I not mention that immigrants has a smell of this perpetual longing to exert their energies upon their situation to make it better? That odor comes out. It's the bootstrap odor of trying to work and work and work and work really hard so that I and my family will not maintain this squalor. I'm going to rise above this dust and ashes. You know, Daniel could have done the same thing, but he doesn't do the same thing. He doesn't do the same thing because he isn't the same thing. There's a different smell. Not the smell of the bootstraps of all my energy, of all my tiresome energy. This smell, Daniel 6:3 says, then this Daniel became distinguished above all the other high officials and satraps because an excellent spirit was in him. This excellent spirit, what is this? Well, it doesn't give the aroma of the bootstraps. It doesn't give the aroma of having to work, and to satisfy the tireless energy of working in order to rise above. It's a different smell. Smell of life among death. Smell of life among death. You know what death smells like? It's so malodorous that you have to wear a mask or cover it with something like on your nostrils. It's so deep and penetrating smell. The type where it will just knock the senses right out of you. The smell of death is so putrefying as well as vomit-inducing. But you see, that's what 2 Corinthians 2:15 and 16 says, that Paul is mentioning to us, that there are two smells that God smells. And it's not the native smell and the non-native smell of immigrants. It's the smell of death or life. We can say non-natives have that smell of having that birthright of being here. Those natives who work tirelessly, and it has the smell of wanting to work, but not with so much energy. But the non-native smell of tirelessly working, or else they'll be crushed under the weight and the burden of life. That's not what it means, but the aroma of something else. something much more metaphysical, something that we don't smell every day. It's something that you can and I can not smell unless we're all in the grave. Then you can smell it. Then you can say, oh yeah, that's dead and this is alive. But that's not what Paul is saying. He's not saying the difference between physical death and physical life. That smell. As if physical life has a neutral smell, and so it smells better, right? That fragrance of life, that neutral smell of no smell, as opposed to the malodorous smell of death, that smell. No. He's saying the fragrance, the aroma of a smell of life that gives off a smell. That when you have life in Christ, that aroma that comes out that people smells, say, wow, that's life. You know, that when people wear a cologne or a perfume, they walk by you and you go, oh yeah, what's that smell? Or I guess when you're in Macy's and they, spray that spray around you, you go, oh, that smells nice. I want to buy that. Or, oh, I don't like this smell. I don't want to buy this. But the perfume and the cologne acts as a neutralizing agent for all malodorous smells that could be on your person. It is true. But the aroma of Christ gives off a smell of life, of something totally surpassing, something, as Daniel writes, excellent. Excellent. What makes it excellent? Genesis 8:21. When the Lord smelled the pleasing aroma, the Lord said in his heart, I will never again curse the ground because of man, for the intention of man's heart is evil from his youth. Neither will I ever again strike down every living creature as I have done. What smell of life? The smell of life is the smell of justification, of sanctification, of exaltation, of glorification, of salvation. The smell of vindication, the smell of life, this fragrance that arises from life because you have life. And it's not biological, it's not genetic, it's not native versus non-native, it's not birthright, as if you were born with it. It is the smell, a preeminent smell that arises from an excellent spirit. And when the Lord smells that, he says, that's the smell of salvation, of vindication. Vindication. What does that mean? It means the smell of exoneration. It means the smell of justification. To be vindicated as God is your judge means that God is not judging you. God is vindicating you, exonerating you. Because you're worthy. Because with your tireless bootstraps, you were able to exert all your energies and force in your life circumstances so that you can exert energy and force in the metaphysical circumstances to rise above life and death. No. An excellent spirit that doesn't belong to you, that's given to you, that's profoundly other. Profoundly other. It's profoundly other, so that these men in Daniel 6:5, we shall not find any ground for complaint against this Daniel unless we find it in connection with the law of his God. What complaint? Any complaint pertaining to Daniel within the law of his God. His God. What is his God? Yahweh God. If Yahweh is your God and he is your judge, no complaint against you shall stand. That's what that means. If Yahweh is your God, that means he's alive. if no complaint against you shall stand. Wait a second. Backtrack. Remember I said that the temple of Solomon was smashed to the ground in pieces, in rubble, so that the people of Israel standing in awe with their jaws dropped to the ground like, where is God? Is he dead? And then there's people in Babylon who are non-native to what is happening there, saying to themselves, how are we going to raise any accusations against this Daniel unless his God is involved? Well, if his God is dead, then there is no God to be involved. Right? Makes sense. Unless having smashed the temple, having smashed Jerusalem, having smashed everything, his God is not dead. How is he not dead? What is the evidence that he's still alive and is here? How is he not dead? What is the evidence that he's still alive and he cares? For we are the aroma of Christ to God. We. Who's we? People of God. The people of God. The children of God. The heirs, co-heirs with Christ. We are the aroma of Christ. That proves individually, singly, and corporately that God is alive. If he were dead and not here and does not care, this aroma would have been gone decades, millennia ago. There would have been no aroma. There would have been no smell of life. There would have been no fragrance to give off the evidence of this odor. It would just be the neutralizing smell of physical life. It would have just been the smell of living. That's it. The difference between a non-native and a native, that's it, of immigrants. But it's not. It's the aroma of Christ, Paul says. Difference between really living and living because your physical life depends on it. My brothers and sisters, I too live in this world. I too bask in the malodorous or neutralizing smell of what is happening in our current climate. I'm not blind. Read the same newspapers you read, watch the same news you do. And I hear the same chorus that you hear constantly. Where's God? Is God dead? Do you not see, church, that if you would just listen for an instant, how we're no different from the climate that was Daniel? All your structures were collapsed during COVID. You were not able to go to church. You were not able to attend the same things that you were able to do. What sacrifice? Service? What service? You were trapped in your homes. You couldn't go anywhere. Everything was stopped. Flights and trains and cars barred. You could not leave this island. Even if you thought for an instant this wasn't an island, all you had to do was look across the bridge and go, oh shoot, we are an island. Only 3 ways to get off this island. And all those 3 ways were blocked. You lived it. You lived it. You experienced it. You experienced the chorus of where is God? Is he dead? Does he care? It's the same 3 questions that the people of God were asking during the time of Daniel. Where is God? Is he dead? Does he care? The answer is, We are the aroma of Christ. Do you smell it? Can you smell the life in the church? If you can't, not because God is not here. You can't because you don't want to. Or you can't because you don't believe. Or you can't because you don't want to know the answer. And if you want to know the answer, we have the elements to prove the quality of the aroma of life, the fragrance of life. The bread and the cup as evidence of the living God. He's an answer to our metaphysical question. He's an answer to our existential question. And of course, we all want the answer to our existential question, which is, what does God have any meaning or any direction for my current status, or my joblessness, or my want of money and career? Well, you know what? He answers that question by saying, do you not want more than just money and career? Or is that just it for you? I want more. I don't know about you, but I want more than money and career and family and a job. I want more. That's right. I want more. What's that more? I want heaven involved. I want my eternity involved in that more. Not more money. Sure, I could have more money, but that's not going to get eternity involved. I can have a better career, a promising job status in which my status and prominence grows and my power is gained. But that doesn't involve eternity. The more I'm talking about is that I can gain it all here and then I can gain it all there. How about that? That more. Some of us don't want more because we want enough. No. You want more. You want more. Don't be satisfied with just this as being enough. You want more. That means you want more of heaven. That means you want more of eternity. You want more of infinity. You want more of life. Life-sustaining life and life-glorifying life. That involves Jesus. It's the only way you can have more, is if that involves Jesus. And when that involves Jesus, you have to emit a fragrance that people will smell. You will emit a fragrance to prove the metaphysical question of where is God answered. He is answered in the lives, in the smell of his people. That's right. The smell of his people. And it's a God glorifying, God exalting, God inducing smell. People will be attracted by or vomit inducing because they'll hate it. Or attracted like insects to bright light. They'll love you for it. Let's pray. As we come to the table, we're going to read 2 Corinthians 2:15 and 16. For we are the aroma of Christ to God among those who are being saved and among those who are perishing. To one a fragrance from death to death, to the other a fragrance from life to life. So, pray and examine yourself then, all of us, that we, us, you, and I, are emitting this fragrance. to admit for today that if you're not, to pray. To pray. To pray to God. Oh Lord, my God, cleanse me. Cleanse me. Wash me. Wash me in the fragrance of Jesus. Clothe me in the perfume of my Christ, so that I can emit a smell that is pleasing to my Lord. So that I can emit a smell that is oh so wonderful to the nostrils of my God. So that when he smells me, he's not putrefied by me, but he is satisfied and adored. So pray this. Lift it up to the Lord. And when you have finished, you can then come to the table, eat with us. For I received from the Lord that I also deliver to you, that the Lord Jesus, on the night when he was betrayed, took bread, and we had given thanks. He broke it and said, "This is my body, which is for you. Do this in remembrance of me." In the same way also he took the cup after supper, saying, "This cup is the new covenant in my blood. Do this as often as you drink it in remembrance of me. For as often as you drink it and eat this bread, you will proclaim the Lord's death until he comes." When you have prayed, when you have adorned yourself in the fragrance of Jesus, come to the table. Join him. Join us at the table.